Episode 53, Winded City Countdown, and it is an interesting time in the world, to say the very least, because the Cubs are world champions, and we're going to discuss some Chicago teams and their championship prospects, and I can't believe for the first time in my life, the Cubs. They're at the top of that list, and I've got my Cubs gear. And Ben, you bought a jacket, and Matt, you bought a hat, and everybody is happy and rejoicing. And we're not going to focus too much on that because it's all out there, and everybody, what else is left to be said? Unless you really just want to hear us talk about it. But at any rate, I'm Scott Sterling. With me, Ben Russo, Matt Urich, gentlemen. What is this strange world we live in where the Cubs are champions?
It's still, like I told you, Scott, today, it's Wednesday when we're recording this. It's when I realized that today it's been 2 weeks since they won. Like, it seems forever ago that they won. And
Yes.
but it still doesn't even feel like it's completely sunken in. Scott and I and his wife and his son went to Wrigley a couple days after, the Saturday after they won, checked out all the cool drawings and such on the walls outside. Got our pictures in front of the marquees and all that stuff. And even then, it still hasn't fully set in. So it's still like being on this weird high, but it's pretty awesome.
All right, Ben, some thoughts?
Yeah, it was. As you guys know, I was out of town when the Cubs won, so it was a little bit different of a feeling. I mean, I was obviously excited. I was watching. I saw it happen. But there really was nobody there to celebrate it with. I was just kind of in my hotel room. I was at a bar, but I left when they tied it because I was like, if something's going to happen here, I don't want to be here for it. I just kind of want to be in my room by myself. So when I got back, it was just a weird feeling, like I landed at O'Hare and I'm walking through O'Hare and, it was late at night, 11:30 or so, and like all the little shops are closed except for one, and they have a little Cubs store in there right now. Like it was literally just all Cubs stuff, and there was a guy there just selling merchandise still, just line probably 10, 12 people deep buying shirts and hats and whatever else they had there at the time. So it was just cool to see. It's a weird feeling. I guess is the best way to describe it. I mean, the excitement of them winning, and then something we won't talk about happened last week kind of took away a lot of momentum. And then I'm back at it. I mean, I'm finally starting to get some of the stuff that I ordered, and opening up that package today to the jacket that says Chicago Cubs 2016 World Series champions. It just it's a dream come true. That's it's the best way I could put it. It was something that we've all waited for a long time. The one thing, I don't remember if we talked about it the last podcast, but when they started the playoffs, and I don't even remember if we watched at that point, but there was that little girl who they did like the video starting, and she's like, I've waited 12 years for this. And I just wanted to punch her in the face because it's like, listen, like I'm 31 and like I feel like I've waited a long time. And there's people who've waited obviously so much longer than us. But yeah, I mean, it just seems like forever ago. And, like Matt said, it seems like it's been forever since they won, but I'm going to live it up. There's nothing. They could lose 162 games next year, and I don't think I would care. They finally did it.
Yeah, that's pretty well put there. I think one of the things that, and again, I know we don't want to go too deep into this, but one of the things that really got me after the fact were the stories of people and their loved ones and those that didn't make it, and the stories of people listening to this game at the graveside with people, and them setting up a radio at Harry Carey's grave, and you hear those stories, and it's just really amazing to see, like, I mean, sports, it's part of our culture and everything, but just to see generation to generation how ingrained the Cubs are with people is just, that was amazing. I love the story. I mean, I don't want to say love because it sounds terrible to say you love it, but the 108-year-old fan that made it and then she died like this past week.
Yeah.
Like you hear that and like there was just a part of my heart that was just happy for her because I'm like, at least she made it. And all the people
that didn't,
and all the people that didn't, and she literally waited longer than anybody. Nobody else waited longer than her to see the Cubs win a World Series, which was pretty impressive. So those stories just really, struck a chord with me, and and I think the thing that national people were able to do a really nice job of was just the idea that this was an unbelievable baseball game to watch. But like to be a fan of either side, you want to talk about the highest of highs and the lowest of lows for both teams.
I mean, I couldn't imagine if it would have went the way that. I mean, that if it would have went the way that the three of us thought it was going to go, I mean, that a lot of people thought it was going to go there once Cleveland tied it up. And again, and we don't need to rehash a bunch of stuff that's already been talked about a million different places, but I couldn't imagine being in the shoes of those Indians fans. It had to have been just utterly gut-wrenching. But then again, my favorite team won, so who gives a shit?
Well, so if you look at what the revisionist history is here, though, right? Let's say the Cubs do lose Game 7, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what does the revisionist history become, right? You have a couple things here, right? Joe Madden overmanaged that game.
Yep.
Right? Like John Lester gives up a dribbler single up the middle that Addison Russell still gets a glove on. And that's the moment he chooses to pull him, right? So you get like all the Joe Madden hot takes.
Well, not even that. I mean, go back even further to him taking Hendricks out.
Right. Like there were just a lot of questionable decisions in that game. I mean, it worked out. You could say that it was a terrible decision to bring Chapman out for the 9th. You get no argument from me. He was throwing junk up there. The fact that the Indians couldn't get that done in the 9th, if I'm an Indians fan, that haunts me forever.
Yeah.
Like
the Cubs, they lucked out big time there. Big time. I mean, it could have been an utter disaster.
Right. So we start there with Joe Madden. I mean, his legacy is just different, right? I mean, 5 years from now, a year from now, most people won't remember all of those moves, right? I mean, and I know I'm going to be sitting there, next postseason going, right, Joe, don't do the World Series Game 7 again, because I mean it's that. So his career is changed. Javi Baez. Let's not forget, with one out and Jason Hayward on third, Baez misses a bunt.
To be fair, though, he didn't try bunting until it was 2-2.
Yeah, but still, I mean, and I don't know whose decision that was to call for the bunt, if that was something he chose to do or if that was something that came from the bench. But like, if you don't win that game, I mean, how often are people looking back at that and going, you had the runner on third with less than 2 out, and Javi Baez does that, right? So that's there. And then, and then Theo takes a bit of a hit here for no other reason, at least with me, when you look at the Chapman domestic violence stuff, and you can say what you want. He's innocent. He was never charged, whatever. I'm not going to argue that point with you, but I am going to say that there's a significant part of the fan base that was very anti-Aroldis Chapman. And Theo, for many people think Theo sold a little bit of the Cubs' soul to get this World Series by bringing in Chapman, and then he's the one that ends up potentially blowing it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that hurts. I mean, so part of Theo's legacy turns into, wrongly, but a lot of people probably sitting there going, "Oh, you ruined the Cubs' mojo by bringing that guy in." You had a great clubhouse.
I guess the flip side of that is they're probably not there without him. So
Yeah, especially because Rondon was hurt, and
Rondon and Strop were basically nothing. I mean,
they were shells of themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was real telling that you got to the 9th inning of Game 7, and you didn't see either of those guys.
Yeah, and then you get there's like rumors swirling that Rondon's isn't even like guaranteed a roster spot next year. Like they think he's fallen off that much.
That's pretty amazing. So, at any rate, I just when in Bill Simmons, I know how many people feel about Bill Simmons and his.
Don't forget to catch his upcoming episode because I think it's the last one.
No, it's already over. It's done. But he in his book of basketball, he dedicated an entire chapter to like the greatest what ifs in sports history or in NBA history. And he had some good stuff in there, and there's some real interesting, like, what if Bill Walton doesn't have the worst feat in the history of mankind? Like, what happens to basketball with Portland, and how many titles they potentially win because he's, and where does he rank in history? But like, you think about like, what if the bottom falls all the way out there in the 8th inning and Chapman gives up a 4th run, or Madden leaves him in the 9th and they walk it off. I mean, it is just such an interesting way to look at it, and thankfully we can look at it through a speculative lens because that came up. Real quick to finish up the World Series talk, and then we'll get into our main discussion of the night. What did you guys think of the Zobrist' MVP? And I know it really doesn't mean anything. It's like, hey, who did the best for 7 days? Right? I mean, it's like, what does it even matter? What did you think of the Zobrist' MVP?
Personally, go ahead, Ben.
I was fine with it. I mean, who were your options? I mean, it was him or Bryant.
Or Rizzo, I guess. I mean, Rizzo hit pretty well in the World Series, I thought.
Yeah, I guess it came down to nobody really like walked away with it, I would guess. And I mean, Zobrist he started the World Series like something ungodly, like 6 for 8 or something like that. And then I mean, he had the game-winning hit. So yeah, I mean, it's fine. I'm not whatever.
Yeah, I'm just Matt. Did you have a thought on that at all, or?
Yeah, I think probably just because I would assume that voting doesn't happen until after the game. Correct?
I think it's like
or during the game, or
like usually like if my guess is like they may have had Zobrist picked, starting in like the 8th or 9th, or they started voting then, and then maybe they changed. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it feels like if you would have given it to him or Bryant or Rizzo, I mean, maybe even Lester, I would have been, oh, okay. Like, I was fine with Zobrist winning it, and like, to Scott's point, it whatever, it's an arbitrary award, but, yeah, I feel like it's one of those things that really, if they would have given it to anybody, I wouldn't have had that big of a deal with it.
So just looking back at the stats here, Rizzo hit 360, Zobrist hit 357, and that's it. I mean, the only other hitter that hit great in this series was Kyle Schwarber, which Babe Schwarber is the legend grows.
What did Bryant hit? I feel like he did well. No,
269 only, 7 of 26, but he had 2 home runs and 2 solo home runs, including the biggest home run. I feel like is that Game 5 where you're down 1-0 and it just feels like, man, this could just come off the rails right here and this is going to be the end. And Brian comes up and he hits that home run. It's like, oh, okay, here we go. Maybe we're right back in it.
Yeah, I guess there was just nobody that really walked away with it to where I'd be like, how did he get it?
So Rizzo hit 360, Zobrist 357. Rizzo 3 doubles, Zobrist 2 doubles, Rizzo home runs, Zobrist no home runs. Rizzo had 5 RBIs and 4 walks. Zobrist had 2 RBI and 3 walks. And Rizzo only struck out 3 times. You look at the stat line for Rizzo, it's really good. I would argue that Schwarber should have gotten it, honestly.
No.
They won 3 games in Cleveland, and that lineup was drastically different. And the pitches Zobrist got to see because Kyle Schwarber was batting in front of him, or
still didn't play in 3 games.
Yeah, I hear you, but I think you could. He went 7 for 17 and hit 412 in the World Series.
Yeah, he was really good, but he didn't play in almost half the games.
Huh?
It's hard for DHs to win that award anyway, even if they play all 7 games. But
yeah, listen. I mean, like I said to start off, it was an arbitrary award. I was actually more surprised it wasn't Rizzo than Zobrist. Schwarber, I don't. I feel like if Schwarber would have had a home run, that would have probably done it. Because then it would then he has like that one hit that goes with, otherwise he had 6 singles and a double. Granted, maybe the most important single of the whole freaking thing when he gets the rally started in the 10th, but still. All right, well, so the main topic tonight is going to be the state of Chicago sports, right? Here we are. Yeah, it's kind of fitting. We have a new president, so we don't have a State of the Union right now, but we could do a state of Chicago sports because we can really take a look at where everybody's at. I mean, we've got 2 teams that are in the off season now. We've got 2 teams that are starting their season, and we've got 1 team that they don't know what they're talking about.
Bears are in the off season already.
Yeah, so let's talk. I mean, who is the farthest away? And Matt, I'm going to ask you because my opinion is it's the Bears. I think the Bears are the farthest away from winning a championship.
I completely agree. And I would not have said that prior to the start of this year. And I would have put the White Sox, I believe, in that rung. But, boy, it's just they're bad. They're bad across the board. The coaching's been horrible. The talent evaluation's been bad. Injuries have hit them so hard this year.
Oh, did we lose Matt?
Yeah.
Matt has cut out, so we can't hear Matt anymore. I wonder if his microphone came unplugged. We can't hear him, so he's going to go away. But he was making the point there that the coaching is bad, the talent evaluation is bad. There's just not a block to build on. Ben?
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I can tell you I've watched combined. If I watched 4 full quarters of Bears football this year, I would be shocked. And I just mean like through the entire season. I don't mean like an individual game. There's just nothing watchable about this team right now. I mean, at least, when the season started, you had Leonard Floyd, you had Kevin White, you had these young guys that you wanted to see have a chance. And then obviously the Kevin White injury, Leonard Floyd, getting better as the season progresses, but, he missed some games. Pernell McPhee out half the year. All the guys you wanted to see play aren't playing anymore. And I mean, there's guys on this team, and obviously over the years I've lost a lot of I used to know a lot of these younger players that nobody else knew about, and I haven't followed it as much. But I mean, there's legitimately guys on this team that I've never heard of, and I'm just like, who is this guy that's actually starting for this team? It's absolutely embarrassing to watch this team out here and play. And there are some good young guys, but yeah, I mean, they're so far away. I mean, there's really no position that I think you could say with confidence, is your building block moving forward. I mean, what?
Yeah, so I think, so Matt, you said, at the start of the season, you would have said maybe the White Sox were the farthest away. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that would have prevented me from doing that was they have some really, really high-end pitching that could bring back some pieces that could help rebuild that thing in a hurry. and the Sox have also not been shy about going into the international market and getting a couple guys. So, I mean, there's that. I think there's like a third baseman for Cuba that he almost came over mid-year, and the Sox were one of the big contenders to potentially get him. And I don't think he never ended up coming. But like the Sox aren't afraid like to do that. And if they do that, like they're right there. But man, this Bears team, like even going into this year, I mean, we were looking at that schedule and maybe talked ourselves into where some wins could come from. But I sat there looking at that schedule thinking that this team is going to be bad. They're going to be awful. And they have not disappointed. And I think the funniest thing is I get a little bit of AM radio on my drive. My drive to work isn't very long, so I don't get a ton of it. But Hub Arkush was on, and he was talking about how the Bears at practice this past week were walking around like they were kings of the freaking division because they beat the Vikings. And I'm just sitting there hearing that. I'm going, is this satire? Is he like joking around? And he was dead serious. He's like, I couldn't believe it. Like you walked around Hallis Hall and you would think that you were covering a 6-2 team and not a 2-6 team.
Yeah, the way they were talking last week, like I couldn't get over it. I was in the same boat as Hub. Like, it didn't make sense to me that it was nice. It was a nice win for them, what they were able to do against what was at the time perceived to be a very good Minnesota team, but that is playing like hot garbage right now. And but yeah, these guys, they were just, to Hub's point, they were walking around like they were 6-2. It was unbelievable, and everybody's saying, "Why not us? Why can't we run the table?" And it's like, give me a break.
Well, we know why you can't run the table.
Because because you are a bad football team. And then Jay Cutler reared his Jay Cutler head on Sunday afternoon, and that was a train wreck of monumental. I hadn't seen Cutler look that bad in a long time.
I mean, he's got to go, right? I mean, there's no way he's back next year.
He's lost the locker room. He's lost, like he doesn't have a friend in that locker room, and I mean that's the thing. Like you could be an asshole like he is. You could be a dick to the media. You could say you don't care about, like, he doesn't do any endorsements. He doesn't do anything with that. Like, you could say, be that guy all you want, but you have to be better than he is week in and week out, right? You have to be, and he's not. And by the way, let me just throw out there, as you're talking about Jay Cutler looking bad on Sunday, I want to give huge ups to Chris Conte, man. It'd have been really easy for him to call it a career after Chicago, after the ridicule he had, and
not even that. It would have been easy for him to take the high road and just be like, "Oh, what does this mean?" He's like, "Oh, it's just another game."
But good on him, man. Like, fuck you, Jake. Yeah, fuck you, Chicago. You booed me when I got injured, and we're glad to see me go down. Which
you heard his response, right?
Yes, I did, and I'm all on board with it, man. Chicago treated him, there's a line, right? And you want to criticize him for his bad play, which at times was terrible. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, he was put in a bad position, right? Like he was on that roster for 3 years? You knew what you had there, and the Bears just never did anything to upgrade that position. Chris Conte is a nice, like, if he's like the seventh guy in your secondary, that's fine. Whatever. Yeah, but they were counting on him to reserve. But you're counting on him to be the last line of, like, the safety position is a crucial. I mean, it's the middle of the field, right? Control the middle. And Chris Conte is not a great player. And so when he picked that ball off on Sunday, and then I heard the quotes afterwards, I'm like, man, good for you. Good for you. Like, not only, like, you didn't say anything the week leading up. You did your talking on the field, and then you let everybody have it after. And I felt good for Chris Conte. I was like, man, you do you, buddy. So that's my little mini Chris Conte rant. I was really excited to hear him say that. I'm like, go for it.
So I guess it kind of seems like we're consensus that this is the team that's furthest away from anything, because I think, you look at like some of the other teams like the Sox or even the Bulls for that matter, like there's hypothetically moves that they can make that would put their team in the right direction moving forward. Like, what could the Bears honestly do this offseason that you would sit there and go, okay, Like now we're starting to get there. Like even if they cut Jay Cutler and draft the quarterback. What'd you say?
I want to ask you guys a real honest question here.
Go ahead.
If you had your pick to be either the Cleveland Browns or the Chicago Bears right now, who would you be?
I actually sent this text into no, I tweeted it at somebody from 670 today because somebody posted how I think it was ESPN did their FPI or whatever, and the Bears are the second worst team in the league. So they said they're worse than the Niners. The Browns are worse. I actually said I would make a very strong case for the Bears being in worse shape than the Browns, at least. I mean, you look at the picks the Browns accrued.
And that was going to be my point.
Yeah, I mean, you have the picks that the Browns accrued. They at least have what I think is a great young up-and-coming receiver with Corey Coleman. I mean, he's less proven he's about as proven as Kevin White at this point, but, whatever. He's at least
Terrell Pryor looks to be
he's a free agent though, and we'll see if they keep him since they drafted 14 wide receivers last year. But and then just look at what they did. They trading for Jamie Collins. I mean, that dude's an all-world linebacker. He's great.
Yeah.
And I mean, if that's the guy they're going to choose to build around, good on them. I mean, they're going to have to pay him, but they have the money to do it. They at least have a young quarterback who I'm not going to say he's looked great, but has shown something that he can maybe develop into.
Ben
Cody
keeps
Kessler.
cutting out.
Yes,
yeah, you keep cutting.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, Ben keeps cutting out here a little bit, but Ben's making the case for the Cleveland Browns and that the Browns are in better shape. Matt, do you agree with that assessment? I mean,
this podcast is going swimmingly.
Have some connectivity issues here. Ben is completely lost. Ben all the way. But Matt, do you? Gone. I am alone on the podcast now. So here, I'm going to give some thoughts while these guys get themselves figured out. Ben's going to reconnect here. Matt's reconnecting. But I go with, I do, Ben. I agree with you on the Cleveland thing. I think Cleveland is in better shape. They've got the first-round pick coming in from Philadelphia, which right now, I mean, we don't know what that's going to be. We don't know what pick that's going to be. Philly is doing okay this year. If I go take a quick look at the NFL standings with where Philadelphia is in terms of league, they're somewhere right in the middle. Philadelphia is right in the middle of the league. Right, so that's going to be somewhere from I would say pick 14 to 22, which is a nice ad for Cleveland, which is already going to have number one. And if Cleveland does what they've been doing, which is they have this tendency to trade down, if they don't feel like if they feel like they can get multiple first round picks, and they're going to do it because they're resigned to the fact like, hey, we might not be ready next year, but they're going to make those trades. They've got another second rounder in Tennessee. Again, they're 5-5. That's going to be another middle of the road second rounder. But all of a sudden, you start looking at Cleveland, and in the first two rounds of the draft, they're going to have 4 of the first 60 picks, and that's really, really good. So, they're doing that. And then Ben, you brought up Jamie Collins, and I think Jamie Collins is a tremendous selection. You could do a lot of things on your defense around Jamie Collins, and get him as the centerpiece, and the quarterback play. I mean, maybe Cleveland doesn't have a quarterback, but at least they've got a young guy that they can try to build around. And what do the Bears have, Matt? I'm gonna defer to you here. I mean, what is the Bears quarterback situation in the near future and beyond?
I would definitely say Cutler's gone. I wouldn't have said that a week or two ago.
Yes.
But I think it's more and more evident now that he is. But the issue is you got nothing else. I mean, Matt Barkley's not the answer. They need to draft somebody. My guess is they draft somebody in the first or second round. They let Cutler go. They bring back Brian Hoyer because they seem to love him. I love people floating around the Tony Romo stuff. I think that's not happening. Why?
That would make sense if the Bears were
If you were
close.
good, yeah, it makes no sense. That was just Adam Schefter throwing stuff at the wall. It's well because he played at Eastern Illinois and he's from Wisconsin, and Ryan Pace also went to Eastern. Like, come on, give me a break. That's not happening. The Bears are so far away that it doesn't make sense to spend money on any veteran quarterback. So
I guess
that's my guess.
My counter argument to that would be like, let's say whoever they take. I mean, if they take Deshaun Kaiser in the first round, which I'm hoping they don't, or some developmental guy in the second or third round. I guess my argument to Romo would be, I mean, I understand we're all kind of in agreement that they're not going anywhere next year, but if you bring Romo in, it's not going to be for a lot of money. I mean, there's just no way. You're not trading for him. He would have to be cut, and you're going to end up signing him to probably some incentive-laden deal. And essentially what you're essentially having him there to play and, help whoever is developing. It's, you don't want to just throw some third-round guy onto the field in week one. I mean, you can, that's fine. I mean, I guess I'm not against it completely, but that would be the only argument I would make is, you're not just going to throw this guy to the wolves. I guess hypothetically your offensive line will be healthy and better next year, but we'll see how that plays out. So,
yeah. So I think bottom line, I think we're all in agreement. The Bears are in the worst shape. I mean, you would have to think they're a solid 2 full seasons probably from being a playoff contender, and that's if they don't make front office changes. I mean, my goodness, if they make front office changes.
I don't see any front office changes. I mean, I could definitely see, and I shouldn't say definitely, but like I could see a head coaching change just because maybe Pace is fed up with, whatever Fox is spewing week to week. The worst part about it is I really like, I think, Matt, you touched on it on Twitter. The defense is actually looking okay, and I'd hate to lose Fangio if there is some sort of coaching change. So I don't know. There's like no direction these guys are going at this point that I think is good. So
here. So I think that's the signal that we need to move on from the Bears, and we'll start into the next way, because I think there's only one of two options here. And have I lost Matt too? And Matt has left. Ben is not. Ben, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here, but you keep cutting in and out, so I don't know if it's you or me.
There is some connectivity issue, and I'm not sure who it is, but it is not good. Podcast is going off the rails. But Ben, if you're with me, I'll ask you the question: Who's the next worst team? Because it's one of two teams here.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. Maybe it's Matt's fault. All right, we'll go with that. Depending which route the White Sox want to go, I could make an argument. In fact, you know what? I'm just going to go this way. I think the Bulls are the next furthest away. For the very reason of it's the NBA. If you don't have the players, you don't have a championship team. And the Bulls, while they might be a 500 team, above 500 team, they are not winning a championship the way they're constructed right now.
I think that's fair. Matt,
Yeah,
what do you think? Bulls or Sox?
Yeah, I'd probably go with the Bulls too, because it's Jimmy and a bunch of makeshift guys. Dwayne Wade's nothing at this point than a guy who helps put butts in the seats, and I don't think either team is in a really good spot, but I think the Bulls, just because it's just Jimmy, and the White Sox, I think there's some pieces there. And now, granted, if they
and we're losing Matt again. I don't know what's going on tonight. This is not good. This is just fully off the rails here. So Ben, I am with you here, and I'm with you as well. I think the biggest, and Matt, I think you were starting to touch on it before you kind of cut out there. the Bulls are in basketball hell, right? Like they're going to be maybe a top 4 seed, top 5 seed in the playoffs, but they're not beating Cleveland. And even if they somehow beat Cleveland, I don't know that they're beating. Is Toronto? Maybe Toronto's still second best, but even if you get out of the East, like this team isn't beating Golden State.
Yeah, I think you're getting ahead of yourself by thinking they're going to get through Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like even if they can beat Cleveland, they're not beating Golden State.
Yeah, I mean they'd have to find a way to beat. I mean, I think Indiana's better than them. Ultimately, I think Boston's going to be better than them. Cleveland, Toronto. That's without even having like the standings up like, off the top. I mean, that's just like I don't think they're beating either of those 4 teams in a 7-game series. Sure, maybe on a good night if Dwayne Wade's clicking on all cylinders, they can beat them, but there's no way they're beating any of those teams. And yeah, they're definitely not beating whoever comes out of the West between the 2 teams you would imagine are coming out, 2 or 3 teams that actually have a chance. So, yeah, I think they might overall have like a better regular season record, but long term, I don't. This team is nowhere closer than the White Sox are. They're probably further. So,
yeah, because the White Sox have some pieces to trade, and
Yeah.
the Bulls just they don't. The White Sox have pieces to trade that could actually net talent. The Bulls have nothing to trade that won't net any talent there. Matt, let's run back to you here. You have some thoughts. Let's see if we can get them down into the record book here before you cut out on us again. And Matt's not there. All right, well, we're gonna just go ahead and assume that Matt's not with us here. And if you come back, Matt, well, he's gone now. Yeah, I think that's the only way to look at this, right? Is here you go. If the Sox trade Sale, there's a chance they can get 3 or 4 major league players in the next 2 to 3 years, right?
oh yeah,
Right,
I mean,
players that are on the major league level quickly, if not somebody that's there now.
no, yeah, absolutely. I think whoever, when they trade, when or if they trade Sale, I think you're going to get right off the bat. You're going to get a piece who is major league ready. I don't think you're going to be trading Sale for 3 or 4 guys that are in single A or double A. I think you're going to get a triple A or a guy who's already had major league experience plus whatever else. The one thing that did confuse me with like all the Sale trade talk is the fact that they say that the Sox are then going to get a top flight pitcher in return, which just doesn't make a ton of sense to me. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, if you make a trade with the Dodgers and you get that Urias or whatever his name is, however you say it, I mean, I think he's going to be a great pitcher, but the problem for the White Sox has still been scoring runs. So, I mean, if you're going to trade a pitcher for just a younger pitcher, I'm not sure how that makes you better. To me, I think you get, you go the Cubs route. You get that proven hitter, and then maybe you get a pitcher who has potential long term or something like that. That's the route I think they should go. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me if you're going to just trade pitching for pitching, especially they're young pitchers, and it's not like they're trading, like a 35-year-old pitcher for, some young prospect. You're trading, what is Sale, 27, something like that. So that just doesn't make sense to me. But I mean, they could retool their team this offseason and just load it with prospects and even major league ready guys. And then in 2 years, people keep talking about that 2018 free agency. I mean, my God, man, if they could just load up on prospects and then go into that free agency with just a ton of money and, go land Bryce Harper or something like that, they could turn it around real fast.
And that is a long shot, obviously, but it's the shot that you have to potentially be looking at here. I mean, that's your route. Matt, do you want to jump in here since you're back again?
Hopefully, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I think it was just
clear.
I think it was our video that was really doing us in. So
Yeah, well, that's what our faces do. Anyways, we were talking about the White Sox, correct?
yes, we moved on to the
Yeah.
White Sox.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I'm okay with them moving on from Sale if you get a great return, but you also don't know what that return is for a couple of seasons. But I do think that having a top 5, whatever you want to call Sale talent in Major League Baseball, whether they trade him or they keep him, that makes them closer to a championship than the Bulls or the Bears, for that matter.
So, Ben, I'm going to ask you because I think you would know better than Matt and I. Who is realistically, and I ask you this because I know the thought of Chris Sale pitching in a Cubs uniform just is such a no, that's never going to happen. The Sox would never trade him to the Cubs. But like, let's take that piece out of this. Who is the best trade partner for the Chicago White Sox in this, in terms of just maximizing a return on talent?
I mean, I think the top two that have already been mentioned, in trade rumors are the Red Sox and the Dodgers. I think you go either way there. If you're looking to get that shutdown pitcher back, I'd talk with the Dodgers. They have De Leon or Urias that they could put, as the main piece. But the Dodgers also have a really good hitter. I think his name is Cody Bellinger. He's like a first baseman / corner outfielder who can just hammer the ball. That's the package I think they should look at. But if they want to just load up on offense, you go talk to Boston if they're willing to move. It sounds like they don't want to move Moncada, but they have that Benintendi, who's, I think he's a top 4 or 5 prospect in baseball too. If you can get them to throw him in any kind of deal, I think that's what you're looking for, and that's what I mean by, we say that Matt said earlier that he's not sure if we're going to be able to judge this trade in the first 2 years. I think they're going to get a piece who's going to be on that. If they move him, there's no way they're trading him for. There's no way one of the pieces involved isn't going to be on that major league roster to start the 2017 season. So you'll be able to see early returns. It's those guys, that you added to the deal that are in, single A and double A that you won't see for a couple years, but you should be able to see early returns regardless of who you trade with. But it just, like I said, it just depends. Do they want to go pitching? Do they want to go hitting? If you want to go pitching, go talk to the Dodgers. If you want hitting, go talk to Boston.
Yeah, and now for the last question, Matt, we'll start with you. Do they actually trade Chris Sale?
I'm going to say no, because I feel like you have to be completely blown away. And I just don't see them getting an offer that completely blows them away. So, as simple as that, I say no.
Ben?
I'm going to say yes, only because if there was ever an offseason you were going to get that package that Matt's talking about, it's going to be this offseason. Mm-hmm. You have the best pitcher is 37-year-old Rich Hill, who was out of baseball for however many years, just 2 or 3 seasons ago. Jason Hamill, I think, is rated like the 3rd best starting pitching free agent. So, teams need pitching. Teams want pitching. It's not often a 27-year-old, Cy Young potential award winner is available. And, these teams that are close, like the Dodgers, they may go all in and do it. I just think, like I said, this is the offseason if you're going to trade one of those big arms. So that's why I say they do it.
I'm going to go no. I think Reinsdorf is just too stubborn. And after watching the Bulls kind of go through this up and down and up and down and up and down, and the only reason the Bulls have had up was because the ping pong balls lucked in their favor. One draft. And Reinsdorf is who he is. He is who he is.
I understand that, but I think my hope, and maybe this is me being stupid, is putting hope in Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams, but like, what are the alternatives?
You hang on. You get Cespedes,
but they're not going to go spend this money. Like, that's.
I'm just telling you. Like, I think a plan that revolves around getting like Cespedes, and maybe, and I'm for the life of me, I can't think of who that Cuban third baseman is. That
there was the 2 brothers that already signed.
No, I don't think that's who that is. I mean, I could be completely wrong. Yeah, Yulesky Gurriel.
Yeah, he already signed.
Did he? Who did he sign with?
Didn't he just sign with the Blue Jays or something like that?
I'm there's nothing that says he signed with anybody.
The Blue Jays just signed some. Oh, it was Lordy something or other.
Oh, he signed with the Astros, apparently.
Yeah, the Astros got one and the Blue Jays got the other.
Yeah, Lourdes Gurriel.
Yeah.
Gurriel.
So they both signed already. So the Sox aren't getting them.
That was the guy I was thinking of. I know there's the hitter pitcher out of the Japanese league. I mean, maybe the Sox post the
But
20 million to
that
get
won't be
him.
until at least next year, I don't think. Possibly the following
They're talking that they said that his team is considering posting him this year. So there is a chance because they know that they'll get the max value for him this year because the free agent class is so terrible. So anyways, I'm not saying that this is the right way to go. I'm just saying if you're looking for what the path is that the White Sox would take that doesn't include trading Sale or Quintana, it's you bring in Cespedes or Fowler, you bring in an international free agent, maybe I don't even know, maybe you bring in some other free agent that I don't know exists that is worth a crap. And you go, look what we've done. And you sell that pile of garbage to your fans. So, all right, number 2 on the list, and then we'll talk a little bit more of the number 1 team and call it a night. Matt, we'll start with you. What do you think of the Blackhawks this year? I know you've watched all the games.
Yeah. Into the whole Blackhawks thing.
What have you watched more? What's happened more often this year? The number of quarters of Bears football that I've watched, or the number of Blackhawks periods you've watched?
I would probably say quarters for you. Although I did watch a pretty good chunk of Sunday night's game, and by a good chunk, maybe a period. So, yeah, I mean, I know the big names, the guys who've been there for a while, and other than that, I know pretty much nothing else. So,
and
go
I say
Hawks.
all this. I say all this with the assumption that the Hawks are the number 2 team, right?
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Right, like the Cubs are in the best position, but yeah, the Hawks, here they are, and they are doing it with some youth and some stars and some goaltending, and Brian Campbell on the back end doing some things again for the Hawks. I mean, here it is. I don't know. Ben, what do you think about the Hawks prospects here? I mean,
it's the same rhetoric we've had with them. As long as you got Kane and Taze, you're in contention. Yep. They've got Crawford. I think, they're going to be in cap hell for a little while here. So it's going to be if they can maintain. I did read an interesting article today, though, about how apparently the Hawks last year explored reacquiring Brandon Saad from Columbus, but couldn't get it done. And then the guy kind of insinuated in the article that maybe they're looking to do it again. Because have you guys read that like Saad has like almost been a healthy scratch like multiple times for Columbus?
Yeah, which is ridiculous.
Apparently they just like don't use him. They don't like him for whatever reason. And they're like, oh, the Hawks. Financially, I don't see any way possible that they could do it, especially since they need new paper for Panarin. How do you say, what is it? Panarin or Panarin?
Panarin.
Yep. There you go. So, I mean, the only thing I thought of was if you offer them, like, say, Kruger and, 2 or 3 first-round picks or a ton of picks, whatever combination you want to do it, and you basically tell them we're giving you all these picks for you to pay for half the salary. That's financially the only way they could do it. So, I think that's kind of a pipe dream. But, I mean, ultimately, they've got 2 really solid lines. They've got a bunch of young guys. This is the same thing that, they were building when they won their first title, is a bunch of young guys that eventually got experience. So maybe they don't win it this year, but next year, then, I'd assume they'd be, right there at the forefront. So,
yeah, I whatever. I mean, the Hawks are going to be there,
They sort of are what they are at
and
this point.
I think that's my problem with the Hawks is, and I tell this guy I work with is a big Hawks fan, goes to like a ton of games, and I told him, I'm like, I can't watch games right now because they mean nothing. Like these games absolutely mean nothing.
yeah, I mean, wake me up in February when maybe they're actually in a battle to make the playoffs, and I go, oh, okay, cool. Like these regular season games matter. Like they have to win on a night to night basis to get in, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. It looks like their division is putrid. Like this division that 2 years ago looked like
Hell, even
it was going
last
to be.
year.
I mean, that's what I meant last year. It was going to be just this absolute juggernaut of a division, and you're going to go, oh yeah, man, like that Central, that's going to be a bear forever. And oh look, Dallas is not really as good as everybody thought, and Nashville is. Well, wait a minute. Are they? What is Nashville? Why can't they win on the road? And oh, Colorado, they got rid of the crazy man behind the bench, and the team isn't really that good potentially. And Minnesota is still Minnesota, and St. Louis still has Jabba the Hutt behind the bench. And Winnipeg looks like they might be good finally, but I, I don't know. We're a quarter of the way through the season right now, and I'm looking at the Central, and I'm going, nothing there makes me think that the Hawks aren't going to be one of the three best teams in that division. And when you start to look down the line at where the wild card's going to be, I mean, everybody thought, oh, well, LA will just get it fixed this offseason. Well, LA doesn't seem to have it fixed. They just don't seem to be there right now. They've lost 9 games this year. So that's not exactly inspiring a ton of confidence if I'm a Kings fan right now that they went out this offseason and got it fixed. The Hawks will be there. And I'll be there to root them on when they get to the playoffs. And I will continue to despise the division format, which might make them play a really, really good team in the first round when across the way in the Pacific somebody else won't. And hope for the best. And that'll be that. And hopefully they win a 4th title, and
we got 2 champions in town.
there you go. All right. Number 1, we talked about the happiness. Let's talk about the realities of the situation they're in. Dexter Fowler is a free agent. The outfield, if you were to bring him back, is incredibly crowded.
Mm-hmm.
For all the love Javi Baez is getting, and he is by all accounts, going to be a defensive wizard for you. His hitting still, we saw the ugly in the World Series and the holes in his swing that still exist. And, and Addie Russell, for as good of a season as he had, that average was still kind of low, and, and he fell off hard at the end of the year. I mean, it's not, don't get me wrong, the Cubs are still the team to beat, I'm pretty certain, next year in Major League Baseball. But there are questions, right? I mean, Kyle Schwarber's still, unfortunately, as awesome as he was in the World Series, he only DH'd. And he's going to have to play the field every single day if you want that bad in the lineup.
Yeah.
Right? And now you got a whole season for Wilson Contreras coming up. You have a pitching staff where Jake Arrieta was very good in the World Series and stuff, but are we going to see, great Jake is gone? They let Jason Hamill walk, which I thought that was a mistake personally for what he is and what the market value is going to be. And I don't know. I wasn't exactly thrilled that they just kind of let him walk there. And then because you never know what Mike Montgomery is going to look like as a starter, but they know. I mean, that's part of why they traded for him. So there's some questions here. So, but they are the team to beat. They are the odds-on favorite to win the World Series according to Vegas and Baseball Insiders. So Matt, we'll start with you. Your Cubby Chubby, which is not really chubby anymore because you just had a huge release with the World Series. Mm-hmm. Where are you at with this team for next year and beyond?
Yeah, you obviously got to feel pretty good about their chances and the youth, and the assumption is a guy like Addison Russell or guys like Addy and Baez and Contreras are only going to get better.
Yeah, and so is Bryant. You would
Yeah,
think,
and Bryant at what 20,
which is absolutely
23 or whatever
like,
he is, like he's going to win the MVP Thursday. I believe they give that out. Like there's no doubt he's going to walk away with that. And it's scary to think how talented this team is from just from on the field or in the field. Pitching still, I mean, like to your point, Scott, it's Jake Arrieta is never going to be Jake Arrieta of 2015 again. It's just impossible. And he did some nice things, without a doubt, here this year, and he pitched very well in the World Series. But I don't trust him for the long term. I don't trust John Lester for the long term. I mean, if we're being honest here, I think Lester's got 2 or 3 more good years in him. Hendricks, you got to see if he can continue to do this, if this year is just an anomaly, or if he really is this talented of a pitcher. And I'm with you, Scott. I didn't love them getting rid of Jason Hamill. I thought for a value perspective, that was a good value because Hamill's going to cash in. He's going to make some big money this offseason.
Hell, Charlie Morton got 2 years and 14 or 17 million today.
Mm-hmm.
14.
I mean, that guy's no business getting that money, and he's going to get that money.
Yeah. So
so
just like any baseball, it's going to be all about the pitching, and that'll continue to be the thing for the Cubs, and we'll just see how it goes. But I wouldn't feel too concerned or too worried with the bats they have in that lineup.
Ben, your thoughts here? Yeah, I mean, I was fine with them getting rid of Hamill. Freed up $10 million to use wherever they want. When they acquired Mike Montgomery, their plan long term was to make him a starting pitcher. They needed to clear room for him. He's now your number 5. So I do still think they add depth somehow. Is that going to be one of these big time arms like Chris Archer or something like that, to eventually replace Arrieta, who's heading into his last season? Maybe. I also think they can just, add some of those, failed starters or, guys who used to be good who aren't good, sign to that minor league deal or whatever, and have them compete for a roster spot, a bullpen spot, whatever it ends up being. But I didn't care about the Hamill deal. I mean, they freed up $10 million that they're ultimately going to spend on somebody. Is that going to be Chapman? Probably not. Maybe they go for one of the other closers. I think that's certainly a possibility. As we've seen, especially in the playoffs, that bullpen is what's going to win you a World Series. I mean, the 2 teams that made it to the World Series had arguably the best 2 bullpens in baseball. So the importance there. Personally, I still want them to keep Dexter Fowler. I don't know that we have – I know we have a natural replacement for center field, but I'm not sure Almora's hitting that leadoff spot. And if he's not hitting the leadoff spot, are you moving Zobrist there? Whatever the case is, we all saw how the offense ran when Dexter Fowler was in there and getting on base. So, they're obviously positioned to win again. It's just a matter of, shoring up, what small holes they might have.
That's why I think some people, they're all excited. We're talking this repeat and, already. But, man, like you look at, like, the end of last year. And we all looked at the end of last year for the Cubs going, holy crap, they're just going to have to get through the freaking Mets every year. Like, oh, my God, like how are we ever going to get past that pitching staff?
And then everybody got hurt.
And then everyone got hurt, and that was the end of it. And it's like, and that Mets team just there's a lot of question marks there going forward for them.
Well, yeah, especially if they lose Cespedes. My God.
Yeah, I mean, they started 2 Floreses in the game 163 or whatever.
Yeah.
That lineup was horrendous, and so you can't take this all for granted.
Right. Exactly.
I know. For me, if I'm the Cubs and money is no object, and you would hope that maybe it's not, and hopefully that with some of the new revenue streams and some extra. I don't know what they're going to get in any kind of extra money for winning the World Series. I don't know like what kind of revenue exists for them there. I would sign Dexter Fowler. I would trade Ben Zobrist, and I would sign Kenley Jensen. and I'd call it a day. That's where I would go. And Albert Almora becomes your fourth outfit, and I would and you could trade Soler as well at that point, because I think there's value there, and maybe that's where you get one of your bullpen arms that you're looking for. But
I'm not sure there's room for Soler with or without Fowler anyway.
Oh, I agree. I don't know where he fits into this equation with, I mean, you would be fair to assume 150 games in left field are going to be split between Schwarber and Contreras.
Yeah, and then what are you going to do? Put Hayward in center and Soler in right, and then just ultimately have, I mean, talk about putting a lot of stress on Jason Hayward in center field then with Soler in right field, and then whatever they put in left field. That's why I think you go Hayward in right, either Almora or Fowler in center, and then you got that platoon in left field and catcher. Between the center field and the right fielder, they can cover the biggest chunk together. So
I just, like I said, and as great as Ben Zobrist was in the World Series, and he had some big time hits in this postseason and was right in the mix of everything.
He just doesn't fit.
Yeah, I mean, and I know Joe loves that versatility, but he's a year older. I think there's some teams out there that would love his leadership in the clubhouse and would just love to have a guy like Ben Zobrist. But if you could trade him and get anything for him right now, and trading him allows you to, like, if you could trade him and get Kenley Jensen, and you could trade Jorge Soler to get that another bullpen arm, and then you could sign Fowler. I mean, I would. That's the team I'd love to have. Right, you go Schwarber, Fowler, Hayward, left to right, Bryant, Russell, Baez, Rizzo around the diamond, Contreras behind the plate, and there you go. And having Jansen back there would be just awesome.
Yeah,
he got the least amount of play I felt in this playoffs. He was unbelievable in the postseason.
Oh, yeah.
And just did not get his due at all.
There's some people that projected him getting the biggest free agent contract between him and Chapman. I mean, most people naturally think Chapman's going to get it, but there's some people who think Jansen might. So,
I mean, why not? I mean, he comes without the baggage.
Well, it's not even the baggage. Like, look at how Chapman pitched when it wasn't a save situation. You know what I mean? Like, he's not the same for whatever reason. It's just weird, but he's not the same pitcher when it's not, a straight ninth inning save opportunity. And I don't get it, but it's just not. And Jensen showed he'll pitch whenever. He'll pitch. He pitched what was it, 50-something pitches the one game, and it was, in the 6th, 7th, and 8th inning, and then Kershaw came in for the save. He'll pitch whatever you need him to, and he's effective doing it. So I absolutely, I mean, if Jensen's the big haul this offseason, that's a win in my book. So
I'm with you.
I agree, and I think I'm trying to look back. Jensen had one bad game in this postseason, and I'm looking at it now. It was game 4. Is that game 4? I don't even know right now. The one they lost they lost 8-3. It was game 3 against the Nationals, and he gave up 4 in the 9th when it was a 4-3 game. And he gave up those 4 runs in that outing, and so that was 1 inning of work. Other than that, he didn't give up a single run the rest of the postseason in 10 2/3 innings. And I mean, just a horse, just an absolute freaking horse. So 6 appearances, an average of 2 innings per start, and no runs. If you take out that one awfulness in a non-save situation against the Dodgers. I mean, people forget this. I mean, the Cubs were up 5-0 in Game 6, and they brought him in the 6th inning, and he threw a perfect 6, 7, 8 against the Cubs. I mean, he was awesome. I mean, and I know nothing felt like he was on the line there, but he still kept the game at 5-0 and gave them the Dodgers an opportunity. Like, we saw it against what happened against the Indians, right? I mean, Indians were down 5-1, You scratch out a couple runs here, you scratch out another 2 here, and all of a sudden it's tie ball game. So that would be my ideal plan for the Cubs. And I think that's something that would keep them there. The great part right now, if you're a Cubs fan, is I don't know where the Cardinals are going. They're talking about making that defense better, but it's not like
they're talking about Fowler.
That makes a lot of sense for them. But, I mean, they're talking about really reshaping the defense, and I just don't know how they do that with this free agent class. The Pirates, there's talk that the Pirates might trade McCutchen, and that maybe McCutchen is has taken a step down and is starting to decline. The Brewers are on the up a little, but they're talking about trading Ryan Braun for Yasiel Puig.
The Brewers are awful.
Yeah, if you're the Cubs, I mean, if you think you could win 90 to 95 games a year, I mean, you're in the mix for the wild card at 90 every year, and you're definitely winning the division at 95. Because that Cardinals team doesn't really put a lot of fear into me right now, with some of the holes they have and some of the things they have to do, and the fact that after all said and done, I mean, they've only won 86 games this year. And there's just not a lot of ways for them to get better. And it's not the run scoring where they need to get better. It's the defense and pitching where they were terrible. I mean, for what they were. So there it is. So that's it. So your 5 ranking here is Cubs are 1, Hawks are 2, White Sox are 3, Bulls are 4, Bears are 5, and the Bears are a distant 5 at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
way out there. It's like a roster overhaul.
Oh my God, that's so depressing too. The only thing that makes me feel good about that is like my son won't sit here through the bad Bears, and might actually like when he's old enough to start really understanding and wanting to watch sports, he'll be like, oh, well, the Bears are good, so I could actually have you watch a good football team, and that's if he even really wants to watch football, because as we've all seen, the ratings are down.
Yeah.
And I love that the NFL's like, nothing to see here. That was just the election. I don't think so, guys.
They had a good week last week, though, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, they had their best games of the season finally, but let's take a look ahead while we're talking about it.
Honest to God, though, like,
yeah, go ahead.
The Bears are so bad.
They are. They really are.
Your schedule.
Who do you look at on that team and just be like, yeah, they're definitely going to be part of a team that is making a run in the playoffs?
Leonard Floyd.
Sure.
I mean, does he show you that much with confidence that he's not just going to fizzle out? I mean, I agree that I think he's done okay, but
and he will be there because of his contract and stuff when the time might come that they can contend for a playoff spot. But he's not. I don't think he'll be like if the Bears get to the playoffs in 4 years, I don't know necessarily that I'm going. Leonard Floyd was the cog in the machine there. Your big matchups for this upcoming week. Well, tomorrow we get a delightful New Orleans at Carolina.
Ooh.
Ugh. Pittsburgh at Cleveland, Baltimore at Dallas, Jacksonville at Detroit, Tennessee at Indy, Buffalo at Cincinnati, Tampa at Kansas City, Chicago at the Giants, Arizona, Minnesota. That could be a pretty good game. And then Philly, Seattle could be a good one, and Green Bay, Washington. I mean, the schedule, it's just a dud.
Well, because they saved – the NFL does like – I don't understand why, but they save like a lot of these better games for the end of the season now, the way they do their schedule. Like New England, Denver should be a good game, but that's like I think it's like week 16, maybe week 15, when at that point the Patriots will probably have clinched the division and clinched a first-round bye week because the AFC stinks. So, like, it's going to be like all these good games that they're saving for the end of the year are going to be meaningless. That's what I don't understand. Like, put that game early in the season when all these teams still have hope.
Thanksgiving, Minnesota at Detroit. That's
Well, at least that's got division.
right. Like that's good because
It's good because they're all bad.
bad, right? Washington at Dallas. I mean, Dallas is good at football, so because Dallas is good at football, that's fun. That's a fun time, I suppose. And then Pittsburgh at Indy.
Like on the surface, that sounded like a good game before the season. Now,
Right, and then you look and notice
Indy
that Pittsburgh and Indy are 4-5.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's 4-5.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
They're and they're only a game out. They're a game behind Baltimore for the playoffs.
I'm going to shock myself now because I honestly have not looked at the NFL standings.
Okay.
And I'm going to go look now because I...
Don't look.
Right.
Who do you think the top 6 are in the AFC?
Patriots.
Yep.
All right, hold on. I got to go by division here, which is going to confuse me. Probably. Well, you told me the Ravens. You said Ravens, right?
Yep, they're your 4.
Chiefs.
They're your 2.
Texans are winning out or in the South. I know.
Yep, there's your 3. Who are your 2 wild card teams?
Broncos.
Yep, they're the 6.
So I need the 5. The Raiders are good, right?
Yeah, they're 7-2, and they're the 5.
Holy cow, they're 7-2.
The AFC West is stacked. The Chiefs are 7-2, the Raiders are 7-2, and the Broncos are 7-3.
Holy smokes!
21-7 are those 3, and San Diego is 4-6. So it's not even like
they'd be in like second place in every other division.
They'd be a game and a half back in the AFC North. The Texans, they're up 2 games on Indy, right? Oh no, they're only a game and a half up on the Titans. Titans are 5-5. The AFC's junk. All right, NFC. Who's your NFC, Ben?
Cowboys are 1.
Cowboys are 1.
Gotta be Seahawks.
Seahawks are 2.
Oh, now Vikings.
Vikings are not in the playoffs as of right now.
Is it the Lions?
Yeah, the Lions are the NFC North leader.
God.
5-4. They own the tiebreaker.
So I need the South. Panthers stink. Saints are like 500. No, they got to be a game. No, they were 500 going into last week and they lost. So got to be the Falcons.
Yeah, the Falcons. They're 6-4.
Okay, so I have the division winners. I need wild cards.
Yeah, 2 wild cards.
Ugh.
Matt, do you know who the wild cards are?
in the NFC?
Yeah.
Cardinals are 500, so I can't imagine they're there.
Let's see.
Giants?
Yeah, the Giants are 1. Matt, who's the other wild card? Let's get Matt do this one.
Let me think.
Matt, you get stuck in your Bears bubble. That was bad, unfortunately.
I'll be completely honest. I have no idea. Tampa? I don't know.
No, Tampa's 10.
It's got to be another team out east.
It is. Do you like that? Do you like that?
Oh, Redskins. I was going to say Eagles, so it's the Redskins.
Yeah, the Redskins are 5-3-1. The Eagles are 5-4. Minnesota's the 8 right now.
Which would put the Cardinals are like way back then.
The Cardinals are 9. They're 4-4-1.
Jesus.
The Packers are the 12. They're 4-5. And somehow the Carolina Panthers, who went to a Super Bowl last year, are a game better than the Bears.
There you go.
It's awful.
So who's worse than the Bears record-wise?
The Cleveland Browns and the San Francisco 49ers are 1-8.
And didn't they win opening weekend?
They did. I think they're on the track to go. Matt, you're a Florida State guy. When did Chris Wanke graduate or leave Florida State?
2000. Well, 2001.
Okay, so if I remember correctly, the 2002 season, then the Carolina Panthers won the first game of the year against the Vikings with Chris Wenke, and then they went 0-15 the rest of the way. If I'm not mistaken.
Well, we laugh at that, but the Browns probably won't win a game.
It's starting to look that way, isn't it?
Their schedule's like really hard the rest of the way.
Oh, there's nothing there.
I think they have like I think they played Pittsburgh twice. And then they have a bye week still coming up. Like they only have 6 games left.
Yeah, it's not good for them. It's looking.
It's a really good year to have the first pick overall too.
God, the Bears are so frustrating. I hate the Bears. All right, let's end this podcast on a happy note. By the way, it was the 2001 season that the Carolina Panthers, with George Seifert as your head coach, they went 1-15, winning only their opener. Oh my God, that's huge. They beat the Vikings 24-13 that year at Minnesota, and then it was just downhill from there. They lost everything. So there you go. All right, happy note. Here's my question to you guys. Not counting the Cubs actually winning the World Series and anything from Game 7, your 2 favorite moments from the postseason.
I'll go. Let's see. First, and I've discussed this with you before, Scott, and it's funny. One of my favorite moments came in a loss, and that was Chris Bryant's game-tying home run against the Giants. That was unbelievable, and Miggy's grand slam.
A solid 2. A solid 2. Ben, do you got your 2?
I mean, Mickey's Grand Slam has to be one of them.
Yeah.
I could go the cheesy route and just say the final play, but that's lame.
I said nothing. I said nothing from Game 7.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Sorry. I'll go with the Baez home run in the 8th in Game 1 against the Giants.
That was great.
Off Cueto.
Yeah. Good moment. My 2, I'm gonna go with.
How do you not go with Mickey? Like that was.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you. I mean, how that's not.
Like if you say like your favorite moment, okay, maybe one of those other ones are better, but like that, if it's your top 2, that's got to be in there.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'll go. Miggy is one of the top 2, and then that rally in San Francisco in Game 4, like that collection of.
Well, that's not one play, so you're going against your own.
So Javi Baez getting the, I believe it was Baez who got the base hit to tie that game.
Was it him or Contreras? Or did Contreras get the go-ahead?
I thought Contreras got the go-ahead.
No, I thought Contreras had the tying, and Javi had the go-ahead.
Maybe that was it. Whichever one of them got the go-ahead. I mean, just capping that rally, that was just so unbelievable. You know, and you always like look back on those championship seasons, and you look for like those little moments where you're like, man, that's where they showed what they were made of. And the Cubs, they had so many of those in this run. They really did. The Baez home run in Game 1, the rallies in Game 3 and 4, even though they lost Game 3. I mean, Matt, you're right on that home run by Bryant was awesome. You're just sitting there going, well, this one's over. What a shame. And then it wasn't, and then it was, and it sucked. But and then you get in that Dodgers there, like that Addie Russell home run in LA when he's just been slumping. And that's up there on the list. Like that was a huge home run for him. Back-to-back nights too. Oh, I can't wait for the DVD. or the digital download, I guess now, right? Because it's not going to be a DVD. Oh, it was amazing. Good stuff, guys. It was nice doing this. It's been a while since we've done one of these, and we'll get this out there for
Rough
the match.
start, but it started to get better.
Actually, it was more of a rough middle. The start was good, and then all of a sudden it went off the rails there. When you know when it went really bad? We started talking about the Bears and the Browns at the same time. I think that's really telling.
It's fair.
Like, if you're sitting there going, man, what were they trying to even talk about in the middle there? We were trying to talk about the Bears and the Browns and who's better off. And the universe interjected and said, don't talk about this. Don't do it. You're going to hate yourself. And we all felt dirty. Matt, did you feel dirty?
Always do.
So I know big ups to Matt here as we're into the home stretch of the season.
He's going to keep watching.
He does, and I commend you, Matt. I mean, you're doing a great job. I mean, you're writing some great articles over at 24/7 Sports. You're doing some awesome work, some really fair and honest coverage, I think, of the team. You know, it's a fine line, Matt, that you have to toe there, right? Because you don't want to just go all negative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because if you do, like, you're going to lose. You know, people don't to a point. People don't want to read just the negative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is difficult. It's been a trying year. It's hard covering teams like this, and but it's still a lot better than a lot of other jobs.
Here's the way you got to look at it. It's a struggle for the regular season, but just think how great the offseason is going to be. Yeah, you have so much to write about with who they're going to pick and trade options and
firings maybe and cuts and trades or whatever. So there's definitely plenty of fun stuff coming.
Yeah, and while, you know, some of the other, you know, guys that you write with, you know, like I think about, like, you have the guy that you work with that writes, you know, about the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's inevitably going to have, like, the offseason pieces of where the Cowboys went wrong, and should they have gone back to Romo earlier, or should they have never gone to Romo?
And they're in talk about cap hell.
Yeah. And that's just going to be, you know, it's going to kind of be the end of it for you. I mean, you might get a whole regime change again. You might get to writing about how the Bears are just absolutely lost because they don't even know what to do. And while all that is happening, you still got an NFL draft to preview and the whole Alshon thing, which I know we didn't touch on that, but God, that's a train wreck.
Yeah, the whole thing's a
train wreck. That's another reason why the Bears are a train wreck. So let's end it there. So the Bears are the train wreck, the Bulls are the dumpster fire, and the Chicago Cubs are World Series champions. What a freaking world we live in. For Ben Russo and Matt Yurk, I'm Scott Sterl. Thanks for listening. Be sure to check us out on Facebook, iTunes, Stitcher, all the places, and we'll be back sometime with another podcast, and it will be wonderful. Have a great rest of the week.